Good evening. The meeting is being called to order at 5:33. Ms. Ellis, could you proceed with roll call?
Judge Harris. Stephanie White. David Peden.
Here.
Commissioner May. Tori Woods.
Present.
Patty Hightower.
Present.
Dr. Smith.
Present.
Dr. Northup. Mr. Sachs.
Present.
And Pastor Wesley. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone has public comment, please complete the form and turn it in to one of the ladies at the table. Ms. Patty, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
Please rise. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before I ask for approval of the agenda, if there's no objection, I would like to change the agenda, and we would like to strike the tentative budget. Do I have any objection? So now I'd like to ask for approval of the amended agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The amended budget has been approved. Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, this is just, sometimes it's a stickler I have, but under business where we have the recommendation from the Personnel Committee, and it says that I recommended this go back. We moved that it would go back, and I believe I had a second on that because it was to go back to the committee. And that makes it sound like I just said, let's send it back to committee.
Yes.
And y'all like me, but not that much.
So with those amended, with that amended item, can I get approval of the minutes? Yes.
Yes. And I don't remember who seconded it. May have been Walter, but I don't think it was because he voted against it. And that was the other thing, is it said all was in general agreement, and I know Walter voted against it, so, Mr. Sachs. So, you need a motion to approve
Yes, ma'am.
as amended.
As amended. May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do I
Amended.
need to formally be recognized as abstaining or whatever? I don't feel I can approve or disapprove since I wasn't here. So what do you do in that case? I mean,
Next, we have the staff recommends the board approve the minutes from, the staff recommends the board approve the minutes on, that's what we just did. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. On to the treasurer's report, Mr. Peden.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
In your packet, you'll see the financial highlights and also the all of our budget dollars. I just want to thank Tammy Abrams for her work on this. She always say it every month, but I mean it. She does a very good job keeping this organized and in line, so I appreciate it. Thank you. The financial highlights, you'll see balance sheet, just a few highlights that our budget to actual numbers, our profit and loss month to month, and our profit and loss by class. All those are written out. It's also posted on our website. But I think the general ledger and everything you need to see with the every transaction that the trust does has been processed and it's been posted in your packet. It's very transparent, and there are no unusual or abnormal transactions conducted during the month. And if you don't have any questions, we'll entertain a motion to approve it.
I do have a quick question. First of all, thank you, Tammy, for doing all this. It's nice to see money going out to the organizations now. I do have a question about I saw it last night. There was a travel expense and sorry, I should have found it again. A travel expense and a conference that Ms. Sidoti went to. Are those, did we approve to allow board members to be able to travel and go to conferences? Is that something?
Yes, it's in the bylaws that the trust can pay for the travel expenses for a board member to attend related conferences. And just as a point of clarification, Ms. Sidoti will not be attending that conference. We have asked for another board member to go in her place, and I believe Ms. Woods is planning to go. It's a national conference on out-of-school time. And so we really would like, it's a lot to cover, so.
Is there a motion to approve the budget,
So
the
moved.
financial report? Sorry, not the budget.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then we have one proposed budget amendment in your packet as well. And you'll see under revenue, it's a very good thing, our interest is averaging about $42,500 a month, which is very good. And we expect this to go down as we roll out more and more programs with the trust. But I think that's a good thing to have that kind of interest. You'll see some other expenses on there with bank fees, salary and benefits, and.
Point of order.
Yes.
The budget amendment is agended after public comment, so I want to make sure if we have to do public comment before that, that we don't ignore that. Are you presenting the budget amendment now, or is that going to be presented again later?
I'm sorry, I was presenting it now, but we
I
can start.
I just didn't want to get, the agenda has it later, so public comment would come before it for the agenda items, and I didn't want
I apologize.
Be out of
I
order.
I was just so excited about
You were on
financial
a- you were
reporting, I
on
was
a
just moving
roll.
on. So I'll table that for now, or we'll come back to it.
Thank you. So we now have public comment regarding action items.
Or Tammy's report.
I'm skipping to that too. I'm sorry, Timmy, executive report, yes.
Okay, settle down. Let's see here. I know my report usually comes later, but I wanted to give Commissioner May time to get here. He's out of town, but he is headed this way. So, let me see. Where's my view, slideshow? There we go. Okay, so the further into this work we get, the longer these reports will get, but I will try to be as brief as I can. Some of the recent highlights that I just wanted to bring to your attention, some things from the last month. Still no change on the status of the gubernatorial appointments. The governor's office is still running behind, but now that session is over, we're hoping to see some movement on that. Just again, as a reminder, Pastor Wesley is still counted for quorum. Everyone stays on the board until they are either replaced, reappointed, or they resign. So we still have Pastor Wesley, and thank goodness Dr. Northup too, still seated on the board. The Children's Summit was canceled. We did not have quorum at the end of the last meeting, so there couldn't be any motions made with regard to the budget that included a line item breakdown of the Children's Summit expenses. And we don't really have the capacity internally to do something as large as we were trying to do. So we just felt it better just to remove that from the agenda and try again next year. We did have a great lineup of speakers and lots of excitement around it. So I do hope that we'll be able to do that next year, pending the upcoming strategic plan. But just wanted to let you all know that that is not happening. In its place, though, We are going to try to do some one-off professional development opportunities for smaller groups because we still feel that there's some real opportunities for other training. We got 2 very high-quality collaborative proposals in response to the Help Me Grow ITB. The Grants Committee is going to be meeting, I think next week even, to start reviewing those. They've already gotten them and they're reviewing them. Everything is done within the SAMUS portal. And so hopefully it'll go a good bit faster. And then I, of course, invite anyone from the public, anyone from the board who wishes to come, and we will work on a protocol so that we can ask questions. The review committee, rather, can ask questions at that review committee meeting when they all come together with their scores.
Tammy, is that meeting being broadcast?
Via Zoom, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
We don't have a bunch of fancy technology. So Zoom it shall be, but it will also be recorded for anyone who wants to watch it afterwards if they can't make it at that time. Then various members of the staff have attended several of our out-of-school time providers events. They're starting to have some of their kickoff events. Those are very exciting. You'll see in your packet that we put some flyers in there so that you can feel good about the work that the Children's Trust is doing out in the community, and they've put our logos on it, and so we're very excited to see some of these things get going. So that's always fun. And then I take very seriously one of the questions that was asked during my interview process about leveraging other funds, using trust funds to attract more dollars to the community. And so as much as I may be annoying some of the other agencies in the community, I'm trying very hard to keep up with some of the grant opportunities that are available and have told them that if they require match, that they are welcome to apply to the Children's Trust through our match program, and have explained how that works, and have explained that it needs to go to program committee. It's not an automatic, but that there is the capacity, the capability of the Children's Trust to help leverage other federal and state dollars. So just a few of them that I wanted to highlight just to bring it to your attention. There was an initiative through DCF to fund some fatherhood programs, which I think would be really terrific in our community. So I'm trying to work with some of the local organizations. I've offered to proofread their applications to DCF to help them connect with fiscal agents, whatever they need, anything that I can personally help them do. I would like to help make that happen because I think that would be wonderful to see those dollars coming into Escambia County. I also forwarded the forecast information for a Health and Human Services grant on maternal care, which is to provide training and internships for nurses and caregivers, could even include doulas, to help low-income communities to improve the prenatal maternal health care for expecting mothers. So I'm hoping that will be an application that will develop. It's my understanding that the University of West Florida's nursing faculty are working hand in glove with the folks at Ascension. So I'm excited. I hope that comes to fruition. That's no small task to pull together one of those federal applications. And then I also shared information regarding the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Victims of Crime, I have to remember what OVC stands for human trafficking services. And that one I do know requires a match. So if any of our local agencies that are working with children who are victims of human trafficking, if that's part of their proposal, then again, I think that would be a wonderful way to leverage some of those federal dollars to address human trafficking services for victims in our community. So those are just a few of the highlights. And then I also have to say, while I'm thinking about it, happy birthday, belated, to Miss White and to Dr. Northup, and upcoming to Dr. Smith, whose birthday I can never forget because that's my twin's birthday. So I'll never forget to wish you happy birthday. Then it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So if you haven't heard, if you haven't seen my 57 emails about it, there is a draft RFP on our website. We put it out for public comment. Lots of buzz around this. We are trying to make sure that what we do aligns with the upcoming strategic plan for the local mental health task force that Representative Salzman has been convening for quite a while now. We have quarterly meetings, and I appreciate her involving me in that. They're having the Secretary of DCF, Secretary Harris, is going to be at the task force meeting coming up this month. So I have asked just this afternoon the representative's aide, and she is going to allow us to put some information in the binder that they're going to give out to all of the task force members, encouraging them to give us input on the RFP as well. So when it comes to the board for your review and approval, it will have incorporated all of that public comment, which will also be publicly available. We know that we're not going to be able to please everyone, because very often, and I'm sure that you all are familiar with this concept, you'll have two people who feel very strongly that they're right about something, and they are diametrically opposed. And so it is not a job that I envy of this board, but it is up to you to decide which way you want to go with it. So we will put that forward, and then that will be coming to you on the June agenda in hopes that we can release the RFP the day after the June board meeting. So the way that this RFP reads is we are looking for community-led and community-based proposals, because we really want to get into the communities that need these services the most. And it really has a focus on prevention and being a safety net. The reason we kind of went that way, and Kim can speak much more eloquently to this, the reason we went that way is because there are millions and millions of dollars, and I'm not exaggerating, coming down from both the federal and the state governments. And those are for the provision of services primarily to folks who have a diagnosed mental illness. So we're trying to get in and fill in those gaps where the federal and state dollars probably will not go. So we're trying to complement and supplement those dollars instead of just putting more money to the same places. So I really would love for each of you in all of your spare time to go in and take a look at it and to give us your feedback, because we truly want this to be a document that the community is proud of and will respond to. The other thing that many of you have probably already heard is we're going to be convening a child care crisis roundtable on May 17th at 8 in the morning at the PSC Foundation. While everything that we do is, of course, open to the public, and we will publicly notice it because we will likely have 2 board members there, what we're really trying to do is to convene some of the high-level stakeholders, the decision makers, because I have been in so many meetings, and Dr. Smith, you've been at a lot of them, around the child care crisis in our community. By the end of this summer, there is one local center that is closing completely. Then several other centers are either closing entire classrooms or reducing their child care slots. This is on top of an already existing problem, because if you have a child in this county and you qualify for Early Learning Coalition dollars, the wait list is about 600 deep on any given day. Furthermore, to get on that wait list, which could take you months to get off of, you have to already have a job to be able to get on that list. So what do you do if you're a working parent in the months that it takes you to get an actual placement? So there are some issues. I've heard that, and I think this was serious, that if you are an expectant parent, that you have to bring your ultrasound picture to the Early Learning Coalition to get on the list for infant care. Currently, if you get on after your child is born, your child is a toddler before you can get care. So we have a crisis. It's about to get worse and is already pretty darn bad. So I put out an invitation, and we have businesses coming to the table. We have Florida Power and Light, we have Navy Federal Credit Union, we have Baptist, we have Ascension, we have the county, we have the city. We have lots of different organizations coming. We have DCF representatives that are going to be there because this impacts everybody. It is a workforce issue. So we'll get to quality after we get classrooms open. So what I hope is that we will walk away from this roundtable discussion with at least 2 or 3 actionable items. And those don't necessarily have to have funding attached to them. They certainly don't have to have ECT funding attached to them, which, by the way, there will be no funding, obviously, until it comes to program committee and then to the board, and I have made that clear. But I think we need to get some ideas and we need to get some things cooking really quickly, because the parents in this community are going to be really hurting, really struggling. And what I'm afraid of is that if you have parents who have to put food on the table, they may leave their children in some less than optimal care. So I really want to try to get out in front of this as much as we can. Don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I would welcome you to attend if you can. I know several of you have already been on the hit list for the invitations. So if you have any input on that, if there's anything that you think we need to include or not include, if you want to attend, please just let me know, because I really want to be as proactive as we can. And having these different conversations in different silos is not helping, because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand doesn't know what the left foot doesn't know what the right foot is doing, and there's lots of stuff spinning, and we need to just get to some solutions. That's a huge ask of the community, but we're going to give it a shot. We got nothing to lose and everything to gain on that. So other things on the horizon, we'll be bringing the lease for the office space at PSC to you all as soon as I get it back from the PSC attorney. You all know about the strategic planning process. Do want to point out that June 14th, is it the 14th? It's going to be a very long day, because you have a board meeting that
13th.
morning.
13.
Pardon?
13.
13th, thank you. You have a board meeting that morning, and then we want you back that evening for the strategic planning. That was the only day that we could get you all together, so I am so sorry for the long day. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Then we're continuing to monitor the out-of-school time grantees, and we're continuing to work on capacity building efforts with our local agencies that we have funded or who are trying to apply for funding from the trust. And then I just gave you some important dates so that, and you have all of this in a write-up that I gave you in your packet, but just wanted to point these things out because I know you're all very busy. The public comment for the mental health RFP is through May 31st. Program committee meets on May 15th because we have a couple of unsolicited proposals that I need guidance as to how to respond on those. We have the ITB review committee also on May 15th because there were some crossover between committee members on both of those. Then the Every Hour Counts National Conference, which is the one that I was saying Ms. Sidoti was going to attend, that is May 30th to June 1st. We're also planning to go before that conference and visit some of the sites in Palm Beach and Broward counties because the conference is down there, and then swing back through Tampa because it's so close, which, you know, it's all relative. When you're in Escambia County, everything down there is equidistant. Then we're going to go through Tampa and look at some of the centers that they have, and then we'll be back on June 2nd. And then we also have where I was mentioning the strategic planning workshop, June 13th. If I had just looked at the next slide, I'd have had the date. It's right here. And then the grade level reading campaign, or campaign for grade level reading, is we're going to have a roundtable because we already had the speaker lined up. That's not costing the Children's Trust anything. That's covered by the Florida Association or Alliance of Children's Councils and Trusts. I have to think about what the acronym stands for. So Jen Faber is coming, and she's going to do a roundtable discussion on June 14th with some folks in the community about what that campaign is and how we can re-engage Escambia County in that campaign. And I just wanted to let you know that we will be sending out some information about what the campaign for grade level reading is for anyone who is interested and wants to read a little bit more. I won't take up your time with that tonight, but if you're interested, we'll get a packet out to the board. So, and that's it. And so happy birthday, board members. And thank you for your time.
Tammy, I have a quick comment. One of your slides talked about the child care crisis. I don't see that in the executive director's report. So I would encourage you to either amend it and add that detail, because that seems to be like a very, very big deal. And you seem to be organizing at least the community to take some steps towards solutions. But because it's not in here, just speaking to it doesn't create the public record for it.
Okay.
So I would encourage you to either amend your executive director's report to add it or somehow get it in here, because I didn't see it.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, we posted the agenda, and then we got news that these places were closing. And so I scrambled to get that together, but that's a very good point. And I will do that so that it's in the record. So thank you so much.
I think that's a great idea. Will you send us all information about where it's going to be and the time again?
Sure.
Because I hadn't, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yay, I'm glad people are interested. Yay.
Thank you, Ms. Greer.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to, Executive Director Greer, thank you for pulling those community members together for our early learning. I absolutely agree with you. This is a pressing item. We know our kindergarten readiness has dropped. We know that there's a tough labor force out there for some of our early childhood providers, with salaries being able to, the wages being competitive. And I think there's been a struggle there for some of our daycares and preschools to find people to come and work. And what that then subsequently generates is fewer kids being serviced when we're lacking employees. So I think that's one of the pieces in this equation is how do we as a community, are there ways we can help out with that? And it's certainly important, I think, for us to discuss that. I think another very important piece that I would like to see discussed at this gathering is how do we identify our students, or our children, I should say, they're not students yet. How do we identify our children who are experiencing life in a high needs situation, a highly challenging economic situation? I think that's a big challenge for us. In speaking and meeting with leaders in this arena, I think we all agree that we are, our system, how it is in place, we're missing children who are in high needs of daycare or preschool or just those early learning experiences. So thank you for that. I'm looking forward to that, and I hope that to be very productive, because I think that is an important piece in establishing the trajectory for our children as they enter school and for the long term. The other piece too, this is separate from this, but I just want to put this on the board's radar. In our school district, we have navigators who are, the best comparison is they're kind of like social workers. We have 32 of them assigned to 32 of our schools. We are going, that is funded through federal relief dollars, which this next year starting up is going to be the last year for that. That is going to create a big void, and this relates back to the mental health concern that we have. We have a lot of children, a lot of families who are struggling in a more profound way, perhaps, than in previous years. So our schools are feeling this, seeing this, experiencing this. So I put that out there because that's potentially a good funding project for us as the Children's Trust. It goes in line with mental health. It goes in line with supporting our children and their families. We have a contract out with the Children's Home Society for about $2.1 million for that annually. And again, that money is going to be gone after next year. So that just kind of is a second point that I think is worth a conversation in the future, because dropping off on those services, we've heard it already. We started hearing this a year ago. Please don't let the navigators go. Please don't. They're really providing great support. So I just wanted to share that as well.
Any other comments? So now we have public comment. Do we have any public comment on the action items? If none, we're moving on down the agenda. We have nothing for programs. And after programs, Mr. Walter with the reclassification.
Thank you, Chair. This is a agenda item that we briefly discussed at the last board meeting. This is the reclassification of the existing position. The recommendation from the Personnel Committee is to recommend the board approve a reclassification of the Program and Research Coordinator to the SAMUS Data Manager. And you have a copy of the SAMUS Data Manager job description in your packet. Just for full transparency, this does include a starting salary increase to $72,000. And with that, I'll request a motion.
Motion to approve the change in job description, job position to the SAMUS Data Manager as outlined.
Second.
Discussion?
I had, let me see, I think I did one teeny tiny question as I did my minutia here. I know y'all missed this last month. And that is the basic standards of performance requirement for a valid Florida driver's license, as opposed is that to provide a federally recognized photo ID or what in this day and age of Uber and all of the other ride shares, et cetera. There are many people who are opting out to not bother with the cost, the expense, et cetera, and may have a state provided and or a federally provided photo ID or something. And I'm just curious, as I saw that as one of the requirements there for this position.
May I respond? This position may have to go to different sites to train individuals on the use of SAMUS or to help troubleshoot any issues that they're having or to assist them with figuring out how to upload data, a variety of things. So we do want someone who has the ability to drive. We could change it to say a valid driver's license, but since this is Escambia County money, we would really prefer to have a Florida resident. So that was the only reason that was in there. But we're not, of course, we're not married to that particular requirement, but it would just be, but we could, I mean, if they choose to Uber back and forth, then that, we could certainly strike that.
I was going to say, in my time going west, I spent several days in LA with my son, and it is an increasing number of individuals there due to cost of automobile ownership, gas, the parking, which is insane, et cetera, et cetera. More and more people are simply hitching rides going to and from routinely with ride shares, taxis, et cetera, and do not have a driver's license for just that reason. It's just one more thing to keep up with maintaining, et cetera. And I just wondered if we leave that as a requirement for this position here and now. I assume our present candidate does have that, but I see it in the future potentially. I just raised that point as technology is taking us to other realms.
As a comment, in the third essential function, it says that they would be providing training, technical assistance, and program monitoring on-site and remotely. So you do have the requirement to be able to be a remote trainer already covered. So if that was the essential part of the driver's license, then that standard would not be needed.
Madam Chair,
ma'am.
I think at the other part of that, it says monitoring on-site and remotely. So my understanding at the committee meeting was that this person in these first, as we move into more and more use of SAMUS, the person will probably need to be able to go to different organizations, depending on their, you know, I like people to be standing over my shoulder saying, this is, you punch this button now, rather than me trying to figure out what button they're showing me on their screen. So I don't have a problem with the driver's license requirement.
And again, I'm not trying to be cantankerous or confrontational, just raising this as we're looking forward. I know part of our proposal already or discussions have involved changing the budgetary requirements as far as board approval because it's being presented in an informational matter, et cetera. And the need to travel, is there a way to change the verbiage somewhat and say that would encompass you either have a driver's license or you have ready access and are quite, as I say, I just am concerned we potentially down the road have some candidate who is potentially good and meets everything other than that, but it's not worth it.
Well, it's an excellent point because I have had experience where I have employees who have valid driver's license who have refused to travel. Show it in my KSA where it says I have to travel, you know, or whatever commentary. So if the essential nature of this is the ability and willingness to travel or to be remote, then that's the more important standard than the license. So I agree with you.
I will tell you, as the former CMS medical director having regional responsibility for the 10 counties in the Panhandle, I encountered similar issues. Would it be more reasonable, taking those considerations, to have the ability to and willingness to travel as needed to fulfill the other requirements of the job position?
Are you making an amendment?
Yes, I guess I am.
Madam Chair, I'll second the amendment.
Any discussion?
Could somebody state the amendment?
I was going to ask the same thing.
An ability to and a willingness to travel as needed to fulfill requirements of the position.
I have a question. Are you asking to strike the valid Florida driver's license or leave that and add additional verbiage?
I would move to strike having a Florida valid driver's license.
And adding in its place?
Correct. Thank you, Patty.
And I'll second the amendment, the amended motion.
Any discussion?
If I could, one moment. When we have a new employee come on board and I have to run E-Verify on them, I do need a driver's license or an ID. So I don't think we should strike it, but we should say driver's license or state-issued or federal-issued ID.
I agree wholeheartedly. What if they had to go get a notary? I mean, anything, insurance, we have to have some kind of proof that that person is that person, so.
Right, but that would not be
There's no
under
background.
standards of performance. So it's not a performance requirement. It'd be an identity requirement. So I think that's covered under personnel, right? That's not necessarily in the position.
Any other discussion? All in favor of approving with the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye. I was gonna say me.
All in favor? Aye. She's trying to make sure she has a
Oh,
count.
aye.
Aye.
And all opposed?
It is 4-4.
So it fails.
It fails. So we did not approve the amendment. So now we're going back to the initial proposal without the amendment.
Do we have a motion on the original proposal without the amendment?
Been stated before the amendment was made.
So we
Okay.
need
So we-
discussion on the original one, correct? Any discussion? No discussion?
Madam Chair, I will say that we did discuss at personnel the starting salary of $72,000, and Ms. Abrams did provide us a spreadsheet of different salaries with the data manager and IT. So just for public record, we did discuss that, and it was vetted, so.
So, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So it passes. It is approved, the new position change. So we are moving on to, yes, ma'am?
So just for clarification for our notes, so it passed
As written, correct.
with Florida driver's license.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Thank you.
We're moving on to, I'm looking at the budget amendment. I was looking for my agenda.
All
Mr.
right.
Peden?
Now,
Now it's your
I was
time
getting
to
warmed up
shine.
Before, that's right.
It's your time to shine.
If you didn't make mistakes, nobody would ever remember your name. So, so we have your budget amendment in your packet again with the revenue, with the increased revenue of $42,500 with interest. And then we've got this expenses, bank fees, salaries and benefits, professional contracted services, and program funding and operating expenses. And there's a few pages in your packet that lays out all the budgetary items. And just on the expenses, you'll see at the number 6 on the breakdown of total annual expenses will be 1.38% financial, 6.46% operating, 89.48% grants and aids, and 2.69% for revenue. So it shows you, it gives you a good snapshot of where we are. Are there any questions pertaining to this budget amendment? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you.
Moving on to agenda item D, Mr. Walter.
Thank you. This agenda item is piggybacking on the county benefits contract, and the recommendation from the Personnel Committee is that the board approve the executive director to approach the Escambia County Board of County Commissioners and the Pensacola State College regarding piggybacking on their employee benefits contract. Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Does I guess looking at the agenda, the just passed tentative 23-24 budget,
That was removed from the agenda.
That was removed from the agenda.
okay, all right. I was going to say that would be impacted, I would think, by this motion of backpacking or piggybacking on the county benefits contract potentially.
Yeah, this motion is just for the executive director to approach
Yeah.
and to, I guess, determine the boundaries under which the piggybacking could or could not occur. And then the executive director would come back to the board with that information.
Dr. Northrup, we had a discussion at our last Personnel Committee meeting, and then we couldn't work on this last month because we lost our quorum. But presently, the benefits package that our staff, and I'll let Tammy or Tammy better explain it, but it is very expensive, and we're looking to hopefully be able to figure out a way that maybe we can piggyback on one of these two programs so that we can bring down the expense of health care, et cetera.
Nothing like economies of scale to reduce pricing. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. It passes. Mr. Peden,
Yep.
back to you again. You were just like all over this
I
agenda
know
today,
it.
huh?
So in your packet, there's, and I guess it's timely with what we just did, but the renewal for the insurance for our employees is up for renewal, and you'll see what's being offered by the Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield for our employees. If there's any questions regarding this? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So move.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you.
That is approved. Now, yes, ma'am. Ms.
I
Tammy?
apologize. We realized that there was no resolution initially when we got our benefits the first time. There was board approval, but there wasn't a resolution entered. So if it pleases the board, I would like to bring back a resolution just to ratify this, just so that we have at least a resolution on the books stating that the board has approved this. Right now, it's reflected in minutes, but in consultation with legal counsel, we think it would be best to have a resolution on file. So if that's okay with the board, we needed this approval so that we can just maintain the benefits, but I really would like to get it in a resolution form. So,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Bush, is there a legal report? No legal report. Are there any public comments on non-action items? Any board comments? No board comments? With no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 6:21. Please join us. Our next meeting is at 9 a.m. on June 13th. Thank you.